Hey everyone, this is Lindsay Ballet from She Works Abroad, and today we have Emily on the Skype phone with us, talking across a big international pond in Berlin, Germany. Welcome, Emily. I'm super glad to have you here.
Hello, that's how they say hello in Berlin. Yes, I know
I
one
love
word.
it. I love it. Perfect. That's great. That's a really good start. So, Emily, as you know, you're one of our stars at Your Global Career, and I just want for anyone who is with us today to let's back up and talk about before you made it to Berlin, Germany, when you were living in Indianapolis in the United States. You and I had a conversation, and you were a little bit at your wits' end with your global search, if you recall that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you were when you first, when we first started talking?
Okay. So I was living in Indianapolis. I'd been grappling with this international move for many, many years, and I was just I kept kind of picking up the job search and dropping it and picking it back up and iterating, and just I didn't really know what my process was like. I was just fumbling with it, and I kept getting maybe a little bit closer each time, but like getting bumps and bruises along the way. And I got so frustrated, and the last time it happened, I came so close, and I thought things were like happening finally, and then they dropped me in the interview process, and I could not get out of bed. It was like my heart was literally broken. My mom drove 3 hours to come and, I'm gonna cry, but spend the weekend with me. Sorry. It was a very emotional times. So I feel like I hit rock bottom, and I called Lindsay, and well, actually, my mom, I was telling my mom about Lindsay because we had crossed paths maybe 2 years before that, and she was still discovering what her program was. I was still discovering what my dreams were. So we weren't really ready to engage. And I was telling my mom about Lindsay, and I was like, yeah, I should probably reach back out to her again. And my mom got on my computer and found that Lindsay was having a webinar it was like, Lindsay's having a webinar in 13 minutes. And I was like, what? And so I made it, in my mind, I was like, okay, like I'm doing this, I'm going to call Lindsay, and the rest is history. So, I was at a very low point and decided to reach back out to Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, when we first spoke, and you're gonna make me tear up too, because one, yay for moms, but two, you have come so far on this journey. And I remember our initial conversation, you were like, something's just not working. I'm at this point in time, I am battered and bruised, and you were getting interviews. That was never your problem, right? You were talking to hiring managers, you were getting into the process, but we couldn't figure out what was stopping you, what was happening at the very end that you weren't getting an offer, you weren't getting the position. And yeah, I mean, when we started chatting and I heard where you were, I was like, this is two parts here. One is you need a confidant along this path, or you're not going to make it. I mean, it was just you were going at it alone, time and again, and you just were like, I can't keep doing this alone. And second was figuring out what was going on with your strategy, that you weren't getting these offers because you had everything that it took. So from the first start, when we started working together, when you came into the program, you were guns blazing. You were I remember at one point you were said, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that was awesome until we got to a point where you were uncomfortable with some parts of the strategy of what I was recommending. Do you remember this call?
I do, yes.
Yeah. All right. So talk a little bit about
I remember
outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think I would describe myself as being a confident person within a certain means, just being able to go shake someone's hand and go up to somebody and talk to them and this and that. And Lindsay's methodology is that you don't waste time with HR recruiter. You go right for the hiring manager. And I understood, like, all of her logic made sense, but I just felt like, oh my gosh, this system, the HR process exists for a reason, and I feel like I'm bypassing in sort of an uncomfortable way, and I couldn't really put it to words what made me feel nervous about it or uneasy, but I didn't want to really deviate from like that process. And once I did it, I never looked back. So when I started with Lindsay, I interviewed 9 different companies, and I never once applied online. I never once went straight for the recruiter. I would always go to the hiring manager, and maybe they would like pull me back to the recruiter, but at least I had that contact and I had that exposure, and it worked for me every single time.
Yeah. I mean, you were quickly getting interviews. And again, like, it was never your problem was never that you were getting interviews. You just weren't getting hired. Like, you weren't getting that final offer.
Yes.
And you'd had a lot of discussions, but it was taking you time going through the recruiters and the and HR as well, and like being able to bypass that. I saw like your confidence muscle grow so much in the beginning, thinking about like, why would a hiring manager want to talk to me? To in the end, you forwarding notes, being like, look how many times the CEO clicked on my email.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I want to clarify one thing. I was, before I engaged with you, I was getting interviews, but I was writing cover letters. I was applying online. I was talking to recruiters. So it wasn't, things were happening for me, but they felt definitely shallow in comparison to when I engaged with you. I took off. It was like night and day.
It was it was night and day, and really you were night and day in the process too. And I think it's interesting because when, Emily, for you, like, you are you're in tech, right? Like, you're in like a sexy industry that's hiring internationally. You had like a good amount of experience under your belt. Like, why did you say, at the end of the day, like, I need to go into your global career? Like, what was the decision that you made?
I felt like I didn't know I felt like I had job security in the States, and I knew how to navigate that pretty well, but applying that same process internationally just is not the same, period. And I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I didn't know what I was doing right. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I needed someone to guide me and navigate me and coach me, and that's exactly what I got. I also, like, simple things like, why do you want to move to Germany? I would I would stutter. I would just like stumble over my words. I didn't really have. I would lead with like, oh, I just love to travel, and that's just garbage. Like, I mean, yes, that's true. I am a travel enthusiast, but no hiring manager is going to just travel this wanderlust and feel really good about it. So it was definitely my talk track was something that I think was a barrier during those conversations that I would get before Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I just remember you going from like having this like, why would anyone want to hire me mentality, like, hey, I need to figure out like why someone would want to hire me internationally, to you like texting me and like saying like, I left it all out in the field in that interview. Like, that was the best I can do, and like, I know whether I go forward or not, like, this is as good as it can get. And that was an amazing transformation to see, because you went from wanting of course to be like in the interview process to being kind of like, take it or leave it, this is what I'm good at and what I'm skilled at. But it was not a straight path. There were many twists and turns along the way, right?
Yes. And I will add too, another thing that you helped coach me on was I work in tech, so there's a lot of tech companies out there, but it was looking for the right ones at the right time and knowing, it became like this thing that I would do, like subconscious. I wasn't even thinking about it anymore. I would look at a company, look at their offerings, look at how they were talking about themselves, and just kind of like profile and be able to look at, okay, I want to go after this one, not this one. They're not ready for me yet. They're like just in the news, in the places. I just going to the watering holes where everyone was, and knowing what to look for and who to talk to and what information I needed. That was really valuable too, because working in tech is like good and fine, but unless you're like where they need you to be, it doesn't really matter so much.
Yeah, and on that point as well, like looking at, instead of just like what roles were open, like and being like, what do I want to do? What roles are open? To being much more strategic about how you were penetrating the market. And I remember we had this great conversation where you were having a lot of informational interviews, talking to hiring managers, talking to C-suite people. And I said, we're starting to circle the pool here of the people that know your name. They know what you're looking for. They know what your offering is. And you are much more specific in who you're talking to and what you were offering, so that like before, after a while, I just said, like, you're going to get a job. It's just which one. You're going to find a great role. It's just which one. We just have to make sure that the right one comes to you. And it ultimately did. But there was a couple times when you had calls when you were like, talk me back off the ledge.
Yes. I would start. So, yes. There were times. So this would have. So let me back up. A lot of my interviews, actually, I would say like 90% of my interviews took place after I graduated from the program. So I was worried about leaving the nest. I felt like I loved the weekly calls with everyone. I learned so much. I got all my questions answered. I would be able to send, Lindsay emails at any time of the week, and she would respond in like a very timely manner. And I was really nervous about, I just didn't feel like I was ready. And I was very satisfied, pleased when the program ended and Lindsay's support did not. So I always felt like I could, maybe save a couple questions and make a weekly email and get responses. It was not uncommon for me to text her and say, I really would love to talk to you at some point this weekend. She would hop on a call. We would talk it out. She would talk me off that ledge, because there are just the job search becomes like dating, and you feel like, does he like me? Was he interested? And you have all this anxiety. I was using a tool that I could see how many times they looked at my emails, and it was a really nice feedback, because I could see that they're like, oh, they're opening my emails so many times. Just you start to wonder, and I think Lindsay applied a lot of color in those situations, and a lot of common sense, and just asking really thoughtful questions where I was able to just like go for a walk and like feel better about it, because Lindsay gave me kind of that peace of mind and guidance, and maybe helpful hints for things to do in the meantime when I was wringing my hands.
Yeah. There were a lot of walks with Scout during our chats together. A lot of processing going on.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you did land a job, and I think your global career, as we always said, is like, this is your activation, this is your strategy, but now you have to work the strategy. And I like that we go through the paces, and you get a taste for how things are going to be during our time and our work together, to make sure that you're ready for like the wave of things that are going to come your way. But it is, for some people, it takes it takes time. And so being able to help you, support, and guide you is a credit to your coachability and how open you were along this process, like always asking good questions, but also coming with like, hey, I'm having a mental hiccup, and I know it's in, your best interest, to like pick up the phone or like send me a text, etc. And I think it's a testament to how bad you wanted this dream of working and living in Germany. And you know that my quote that I tell everyone now is your quote that you say that living abroad is as intrinsic to you as your hazel eyes, which is like one of the very first things you ever said to me.
Did I?
You wanted this so bad. Like you were like, this is who I am, it's who I'm supposed to be, and I'm not going to give up till I make it happen. So let's talk about what we're celebrating.
We're celebrating 6 months of the most I've ever worked. I think up until this point, I would attribute my hard work in grad school. I was going through a breakup. I knew no one in the program. I moved to a town, and long story short, just incredibly difficult time, and I came out on top. And grad school seems like a cakewalk compared to what the job search was. And going through it, it was so hard because you kind of you're building a machine. You're putting all these pieces together, and you really don't understand how it's all going to come together. But once it does, it takes off. There are mental hiccups where you get worried or frustrated or really depressed. I was sad, and I felt really when is this going to happen for me? And knowing that it would, because I had committing to Lindsay made it public and real in a certain way. And it was, I just needed that boost, that little push on the back to get me to go. And so what we're celebrating is doing something that few people have the courage or the motivation or the energy to do, and building my machine and seeing my machine take 6 months long for the output, but knowing that I created a machine, and I'm so proud of the machine and where I ended up. And also, I had another thought, but doing it in a way that I'm so happy with where I am. I would never. I talked to one of Lindsay's students. I don't know what they're called recently, and she got a job in a month. And looking back, like, man, I was depressed and sad and frustrated, and I wanted it to happen like every day. But looking back, I wouldn't change nothing about how long it took, because I learned like a million things in every day and every month. And I feel like had I gotten the job in a month's time, I wouldn't be in the right job. So just appreciating my journey and being really proud of all the twists and turns and forwards and backwards that I went, led me to a user research job in Berlin, the city that I wanted to be in. I wanted to work for a startup. I wanted to lead processes. I was just telling Lindsay that day 3, I was conducting an interview. Day 4, I was presenting to the CEO. I have so much autonomy, so much freedom in this role. I'm getting such great mentorship. It's incredible, and I owe it all to this program. 100%.
So I'm just so excited and happy and elated for you. And 6 months of hard work for this amount of like bliss and glee, and the fact that when you were taking off on the plane, we were exchanging messages at that point. I was just expressing, like, you worked your tail off for this, and you deserve it. Like, this is the life that you have been thinking about and dreaming about for years. And just to know that you're there and you're in a role that is amazing in a city that you love, and like for 6 months to have this for the rest of your life, to have this experience of living and working internationally, is fabulous. And so a couple weeks in Berlin now, is it everything you hope to be?
Oh my God. I think based on the 6 months and how hard it was, um, makes this even grander. It makes I could walk down the street and someone could punch me in the face and I would be smiling because I don't care. It took me so long. It felt, but like this like beautiful journey of mine that was like filled with sorrows and frustration. I want to like hug it because I appreciate everything about where I'm at, my job, everyone I meet. It makes the desires and the wishes that I hoped 6 months ago, everything's coming true. It sounds really cheesy and elaborated, but yeah, I think that, I know it's going to be hard. I've been here for 2 weeks now, and I'm very motivated to learn German, but I could get by without learning it. I don't know where I'm going with this question. I can't remember what you asked me, but yeah, it's everything that I wanted it to be, and I'm excited for these new challenges because after experiencing such satisfaction with seeing this all the way through, I'm going to seek out more challenges because it's almost like this drug. I've become like addicted to hard work, and now I understand when, you see those TED Talks and an entrepreneur is like, I had this dream and I spent 5 years trying to invent this thing, and you're like, who would do that? But I get it now. I understand because it feels so good when it happens that you just want more of it.
Yeah, and I think for you, the biggest, one of my biggest takeaways with you is like this is the beginning of your global journey. Like your global career and what you decide to do next and where you decide to work, and it's not just you thinking about what's happening, and you were always this way with work too, which was like you physically wanted to be in another space, but you also want to be able to impact
Yeah.
other people around you and do really interesting work. And it gets to now play out on a much bigger scale because you have now taken yourself and put yourself on a global playing field, which is amazing. And again, I'm super happy for you. And just so people know, like, if someone's on the fence of going after this dream, of coming into this program, of using me as a counsel and guide, what would you tell them?
If someone's on the fence, I would say, oh my gosh, I would say I wouldn't be in Germany without it. I would say that whatever information that you are able to read on Medium articles or different things is only like a movie trailer of what it really takes for looking for work abroad. I would say that I remember vividly where I was the first time that I jumped on a call, the weekly calls, and it was like I was on a phone call, this group phone call with like aliens from outer space. I was like, oh my God, there's people out there like me, because you sometimes feel so alone because you're talking about these things and you're sharing your passions, and everyone around you is like, yeah, okay, you want to move to Germany? Cool, you crazy. And I felt like finally, oh my God, finally I have this community, and not only is it a community, but we have this leader, and she actually did it. So she's not just like pontificating about, these things that we should do. She ate her own dog food and, like tried it. And not only that, it changed her life so much that she wanted to change others' lives.
Yeah.
And it's like sort of this ecosystem of amazingness. And now I tell people about my story, and I met Megan through the program, and we chat every day. She's actually coming to visit me on New Year's Eve. I've never met her in person, but we're like going to be long life friends because we have this shared passion. And so I think it ultimately there is a price, of course, attributed to these services, but pales in comparison to what you get from it. I would have paid double. Like, I mean, I shouldn't tell you that, but it just, like I don't want to be the type of person who wants something so badly and never does anything about it. I think you could sit there and think about the what ifs. I mean, my job, of course, like Lindsay remembers I got a job offer for my now company, and I had some holes in it, and I wasn't really sure. And honestly, that first interview, I didn't want to take it because it was in blockchain and cryptocurrency, and I know nothing about that. But I learned from the program to always say yes. And if I wouldn't have been so open-minded through this whole process, I wouldn't be here today. So it's about saying yes to things that you maybe don't feel so certain about or confident about, and it really matters. Like if you've been wrestling with this for as long as I have, and haven't found yourself abroad, like, you should be moving forward with Lindsay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just, thank you for saying that. And like, I think you're exactly right. Like, this is about saying yes to your dream. And like, that's what we always talked about, which was like, there are a tribe of people out there to support you. This is about you getting what you, at the end of the day, is like something that has moved your soul and what you have been thinking about and dreaming about for so long. So just to be able to be on this journey with you has just been amazing. And I am, your biggest cheerleader and champion for you to go and like live an amazing life in Berlin. I'm just beyond tickled that you have another Your Global Career member coming to hang out with you, because that's honestly what it's about, right? It's like, it's this bigger community of global professionals who want to go out and do impactful things. So thank you for being here, and enjoy Berlin. You deserve it. You enjoy all the success that you've worked your tail off to get, and I'm just so thankful for your commitment and just like continued enthusiasm throughout our time together.
Yes, absolutely. I have nothing but good things to say. And if anyone who is listening to this wants to talk to me directly, I am more than willing. This program changed my life.
Oh, thank you. You're awesome. You're so awesome. So happy for you, and thank you for the offer.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
So much cheers.
It's all good stuff. Bye.